Okay, it's wait a moment. Should be coming up now.
Hey, well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining the meeting. So we'll kick off the meeting with apologies for absence, but I think we're all here, so I think. Yeah. Declarations of interest. Does anyone got anything to declare from this agenda?
No.
No.
Thank you. Minutes of the previous meetings and matters arising. We'll agree the minutes, but also if there's anything on the minutes that anyone would like to raise. I know we discussed, or I discussed it at full council recently, but is there anything anyone would like to raise off of the minutes? I don't think the minutes, there wasn't a great deal on the minutes apart from pesticide action network, which was agreed. The strategy was agreed at full council, which is great, so we can progress with that. And I think that's an ongoing project. So there's nothing I can see that I need to raise on there. So I'm happy to propose that we accept those minutes.
I'm happy to second that, Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. So agenda item 4, community gardening projects, to receive updates on progress. I don't know if anyone's got anything they'd like to speak on this item. I've only put these in just so that we can regularly update or discuss anything. We don't have to go into too much detail if there isn't anything to update. But does anyone have anything they'd like to raise? Yeah, Councillor Perky.
Thank you. Yeah, the only one really. I've been speaking to Leslie Seeger, who is one of the people that helped to plant a lot of Abbeyfields Road, and she's quite keen to extend that a little bit into the Millfield, the Millfield site, and I think that would be quite good. She's sent through a proposal of what she would like to do, so it might be worth looking at whether we can help fund her doing something like that, where the land is, and just keep in touch with her about what she wants to do, because she did a really good job of rallying people in Abbeyfields Road. So it would be good to see what she's got planned for elsewhere.
Thank you. Is that the allotment site? Did you say?
Sorry, my internet's really bad for some reason. No, it's not that. It's not the allotment site. She's got some land that she's found in and about on the Millfield estate. So obviously, it's a matter of finding out who owns the land and who doesn't. But obviously, she's already done quite a lot of work in finding that out herself for previous projects that she's done. So I'd imagine she's looked into that quite well for this project. So it would be worth us as a committee probably looking at what she wants to do and helping her out a little bit, because she's really active member of the community, isn't she?
I agree. Would you, Councillor Perkin, would you like to reach out to her to see if she'd like to meet yourself or a couple of us to show us the sites?
Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah.
If I may, on the same sort of thing, although sites haven't been designated yet, I know that there's talk of trying to get a walk around the Lovelane estate, and that might be an area where we can look at some of that, where children's play areas have moved and things like that. The problem there is establishing who actually owns what on that estate. There's bits that are Optivo, bits that are Swale Borough Council, bits that are KCC, and let's just say it does tend to prove sometimes awkward trying to get hold of exactly who the right person is to do anything, but that might be somewhere else we can look at a later date, or as councillors from the ward meet with Optivo and others, they may be able to suggest areas there as well.
Okay, thank you. That's a good idea.
Yes.
I've also on this subject, I reached out to Faversham in Bloom, partly as a committee member myself, and as obviously as they're an established group, to ask whether they've got any particular areas or groups that want to start a new project as a kind of that, but also the fact that they've got various representatives that kind of work around the town. I'm trying to establish a meeting with the committee. It's becoming quite difficult because I think a lot of the committee aren't used to doing virtual meetings, so just trying to find a medium that would be good for everyone, but that's something that should happen hopefully in the next couple of weeks, which will be good. So hopefully at the next meeting I'll be able to update on that. Councillor Birkin?
That sounds really good. I think that also it might be worth having us having a look at our budget, which we do have for the committee, and seeing if there's anything that we can allocate to community gardening projects. If they maybe that, I don't know how everyone feels about that, but maybe allocating a certain portion of the budget to like community gardening grants, so that people can apply for small pockets of the budget that we've got to help them with their community project planting. I think that'd be quite a good thing to look at if everyone agrees on that. That's something I'm happy to make a proposal on if needs be.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable idea. I would be more inclined to say to anyone that was thinking of doing community gardening projects to approach the committee if they needed funding. I don't think we would look at a formal grant process, because one, I wouldn't want to limit the figures involved. You know, it may be, if it's a large area, it's going to cost a lot more than just a small wildlife bee bomb, and I think we need to be aware of that. And if people have got ideas and they come forward with them, you know, we can look at how much we can spend in any one area perhaps, but I think we would be unwise to restrict ourselves from financially on that. So if people want to apply to us for a grant to do community gardening or tree planting or whatever, we can look at that as they come forward, whether they come through this committee or come through the standard grant process that is out there. And all they need to do really is contact the town clerk to set the ball rolling. So perhaps we could advertise that at some point, whether we do that now or at a future date. I'm thinking about the time of year. It's probably a good idea to let people know if they want to plant trees now, and if they want to do further things later, but I'll defer to our horticulturalist on that, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Yeah, I mean, I think this is an idea that's a very good one. I think there's the struggle, I suppose, with this committee and what we can actively spend the money on ourselves is that we're restricted by what places we can do our own planting. And I think what's been proven quite successful, very successful in town, is the community groups and what they achieve, purely because they're empowered to do their own thing, and with our support I think it could be really good, and it will be a really positive way, and primarily a lot of them won't require a great deal of money because a lot of it's just getting themselves set up. So I think it's a very good idea. Would anyone like to second the proposal?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Good idea.
We'll vote on that, see if we want to carry that through. Okay, brilliant. So I'm guessing with the structure of that, we just put it out there to people to say that the facility is there, so people can contact the town council if they need that support. Keep it, so we keep it simple in that context. Okay, brilliant, thank you. Has anyone got anything else to raise on this subject at the moment? I think it's an ongoing thing, and I think it's something that hopefully we can all talk to people in our wards, get them in, if there's anyone that shows an inkling of enthusiasm, get them to sign up, because there are people out there. I know there's a few that I've spoken to that I need to chase up as well. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's really good.
Okay, let's we can move on from that one. So if we go on to item 5, which is biodiversity and tree planting, update on progress. I guess this is quite similar to the previous one, really. I don't know, has anyone got anything that's different to what we've just discussed that might relate to this subject, or are we? Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
I'm just going to ask, have we had more of an update from Brooke as to whether or not she had any more people recommending sites for her to put on the Google Maps that she'd taken over?
Maybe so yes, thank you, Louise.
I was just going to say, I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. I think what I did speak to Brooke just recently about compiling a Facebook post to sort of remind people that they can do that. Maybe then that post can relate into a do a press release. I think we mentioned this before, and admittedly it was something I should have done. But I think if we can do those two things, it might help get the message out there, maybe. So I'm quite happy to talk to Brooke, as I've sort of had, as she's contacted me, if everyone's happy for me to do that. But as I said, I think there is interest out there. I think it's just getting people to commit, which at the moment is difficult with the restrictions, I think. The part of the other thing on this particular subject is, obviously I've got a meeting with Councillor Valentine, and I think it's coming up. It's the end of the month. More specific, yeah, Councillor Thomas. I think you probably know the exact date. I've got it on the diary, but I can't.
It's the 21st of September, Monday. So next Monday.
Next Monday, that's it. Yeah. I know that the meeting was primarily kind of brought on by the pesticide-free town strategy, but I think it's a positive opportunity to perhaps use that opportunity to kind of talk about the practicalities and what biodiversity tree planting may be happening in Faversham, so that there's that kind of, we know what's already happening. And hopefully from that point it will help steer some of the other things we're doing. So again, I think that's a positive step forward. Does anyone else have anything else to say on this subject? I mean, yeah, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. One area we could look at, and I must admit I am torn as to whether the replanting of the 5 trees that are missing from the Queen's Hall car park, there's obviously bases there, and there's obviously been trees there in the past, whether replacing those, or whether actually looking to asking Swale if they'd consider electric vehicle charging points in that car park. I'm torn, I'll be very honest, because where the trees were, they were obviously concreted in, and they were very much just the standard square around them, and they are all on a boundary wall towards the northern end of that car park. So, but it may be that I think there's sort of like 5 slots and about 1 tree left. So whether we ask Councillor Valentine when you meet him, whether that would be an area they could look at, or either for EV charging points, because it seems that the space is there, or for trees. I'll leave to your discretion, Chair.
Thank you. Is it Queen's Hall car park's the one that's long stay? Is that right? Is that the?
I believe it is, yes.
Yeah.
Councillor Thomas.
Councillor Thomas, yeah.
Just to give a little bit of an update, I have been informed that John Reason, the tree officer at Swale, and one of his colleagues have been drawing up the Borough Council's plans with regard to trees. So it'd probably be worth emailing John Reason, Chris, to find out if he's included Queen's car park in the plans that he's drawn up, and if not, you could always recommend it to him.
Thank you, that's very helpful. Yeah, I will do that. Hopefully, I know that he's been doing a lot. Well, I know that I've had a conversation about the wreck, because it was part of the Friends of the Earth project he was involved with. So, okay, brilliant. Anything else to add to the to this item? Okay, well, we'll carry on with the work and get the messaging out there, and hopefully, you know, we keep going with that one at the moment. So, right. National Tree Week. It's getting near that time again, and I put this on the agenda really for the sake of the fact that it was a successful event organised by Faversham Tree Group last year, and they're keen to do another event this year. I was invited to a meeting with them about a week ago, I think, just because of my involvement from the last one. I think I just want to drum up as much involvement as possible, so it doesn't fall on one person. And I just want to feel that, well, ask the question to the committee here. What firstly, if you're happy for us to work with them and support them if we can, and secondly, is there any ideas or anything you'd like or you feel like we could do as part of the help, you know, the link with the town council and that in their group? Yeah. Councillor Thomas.
Have you got details of what projects they're gonna or want to do? Maybe give us a bit of a steer on how we could help them.
Yeah, I was hoping to. There was going to be an email with notes of all the ideas that were presented at the meeting, but also some sort of questions, but unfortunately it didn't come before the meeting. I was hoping that if it did, I could have sent it around beforehand, which I can obviously send around as soon as I receive. But in a sort of a snapshot, it was essentially they want to run something very similar to last year, but one of the key differences, obviously this year we've got restrictions in terms of numbers of people. I think they felt that the week maybe was too long because of volunteers. So maybe they're thinking of doing, if they're going to do anything physically, maybe do it on the market days. And then I sort of referenced our World Environment, or Faversham Environment Day virtual event we did back in April, May, and said that maybe the other times could be more of a virtual option. And some of the options were, you know, about having talks and artwork displayed and maybe visits to walks around the town. But obviously, since that meeting, obviously restrictions have changed yet again. So I think the plan is still to have something physically in 12 Marketplace, but it's kind of at the moment, I think it's quite very loose. depending on what they can and can't do. And I felt it was a really, even though it was pulled together quickly last year, and even though that actually isn't that long now, from now until then, I think it was successful, and I think a lot of people engaged with it, and I think it got a good amount of different experts in, things like that. So yeah, that's it in a sort of snapshot, really. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
Can I suggest then that we provisionally say that we can support the organisers by, and this depends on the 12 Marketplace diary, obviously, whether or not they can use the space just outside 12 Marketplace to, I don't know, have a stall, present what they're going to do. I don't really know what they're doing, but if that space where the 20 Splendid stall has been could be something that they could use, that might be a way we can help them.
Yeah, thank you. I think Griselda Mussett was going to contact Brooke or Louise to see about the space, or about reserving kind of some sort of spacing for that week, even if it's provisionally. But I think if they can do something even outside, that would be great.
I can confirm that they have actually booked that week, so
Okay.
assuming that we can use the space, and I'm just going through revising policies about how we can continue to use the space safely. So all being well, they've certainly booked that week and it's available to them.
Okay, thank you. I think, I mean, it's in an ideal world would have more information to sort of discuss, but I just thought, probably bearing in mind, I think our next meeting is probably in November. I think this committee, I just thought it's kind of important to try and plan ahead and think. So it'd just be nice to go back, as if we do support it, we can sort of say, look, we're supporting you, and what, see what we can do to help. Yeah, Councillor Perkin.
I was just going to add that I did go to quite a few of the sessions that they held last year, and it was really good. Like, they had someone come and talk about bonsai trees, and then someone else came to talk about making kind of natural dyes out of leaves and trees and stuff. It was really interesting. There's loads of really good stuff, and they had some trees to give away to people and things. It was a nice week. I'd like to support them doing it again. I think they pulled together quite a good event.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm wondering. Yeah, I agree totally. One of the things that I know that they'd like to do is to do a visit to Copton Ash again's Tim Ingram's garden, if it's possible. Obviously, it might be possible in small groups at a time. And I know that they want to try and highlight the trees that are already in Faversham, rather than just about new trees. So, the value and where these trees are, so people kind of get a bit of knowledge of these trees. It will be, I mean, something to take away and think about, but it'd be good to think if there's anything that we want to use that also in collaboration, if there's anything we want to sort of engage with the community on. It obviously it's going to have to be sort of loose, because obviously we don't know what we can and can't do. We don't want to crowd the situation, but it'd be a good opportunity to kind of highlight something that maybe we want to engage with, because it's been difficult to do that this year, but it's worth thinking about, I think. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
Based on what you were just saying there, Chris, maybe we can, as a committee, provide advice to people who are encouraging to plant trees around the town, i.e. the best types of tree, I don't know, do's and don'ts for tree planting, those sorts of things. I mean, something, even if you were to collate it, I'm sure we'd be happy to talk to people about the advice you provide the committee.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? I think the what they provided was basically sort of education, interest. I think if we can pass that on, it's because, I mean, ultimately people's interest in planting things and trees is there, and it's going to be more so this winter, I think. And I think they want to create some leaflets or work with other organisations that have got leaflets already about trees, so we can obviously use those as well. So again, I think Griselda's will be talking to Brooke, and there may be things that Brooke can help with in terms of promotion, which I think is good, because I think some of Brooke's, the virtual event we did a few months ago, was very good, and Brooke did a really great job with that as well. So, okay, anything else on this item, or is everyone happy just to sort of let it flow and sort of keep in communication? Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Okay, item 7, Faversham Trees, ideas for signage. This is sort of related to the previous one, really. It was something that Faversham Tree Group asked if I could raise at a town council meeting. Essentially, they've had an idea that they'd like to select a few trees, particularly in areas where people walk a lot, and that have trees that are significant to the town centre, for example, and provide signage on that tree that says things like, this tree takes in X amount of CO2 per year, this tree is X years old, this tree is worth X amount of money to the community, because there's technology that allows you to calculate these things. Something that they've got the resources, and they've got the tree wardens who are doing this information, so it's kind of being compiled, or some of it's already there. I think their request was if there's anything that we could perhaps do to link in with any of the other things. I mean, maybe again, this is one of these things that sort of links over to public spaces in some way, because we've talked before about in public spaces about signage. But I just said I'd raise it. I'm not really sure the best way to progress. Councillor Thomas.
Just to let everyone know, and the reason I only just replied to this email today. Ben Simon, the Rec Activities Coordinator, is looking to do the second Friends of Faversham Rec meeting the first week of October. So I have suggested to him that Wednesday of that's Wednesday the 7th might work from a lot of the town councillors' point of view, because we got town council on Monday that week, and I've got a local plan panel on the Thursday. But also I've asked him to definitely invite the Abbey Ward councillors to that. But I'm sure if the rest of this committee are interested in attending the Friends of Faversham Rec, that's not a problem. The other thing I wondered from that meeting, Chris, might be somewhere where you could find other people who are interested in helping with these projects we want to do in the town, people who are interested in trees. And one of the things that Ben had mentioned is activities in the rec, and he was talking about tree walks, tree planting. So that might be a good opportunity to catch up with him and what his ideas are, and see what other people at the Friends of Faversham Rec end up bringing to the conversation.
Okay, brilliant. That's really good to know. Thank you. Would you be okay to? I've written it down, but would you be okay to sort of send an email around just to remind us?
I will. But he's gone back, and he won't come up with a definite date until next week, because he's
Okay.
waiting for Graham to come back. Graham's taken a week off. So we should have more information on a precise date next week, for the first week of October. He wants it to be the first week of October. That's October, week commencing the 5th of October, so sometime during that week. And I've told him my preference is Wednesday, but he needs to get that confirmed. It would be a Zoom or a Teams meeting, I think he's planning.
Okay, that makes sense. That's brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I think these meetings were a really good opportunity, because you obviously got quite like-minded people there, which is great. Has anyone got anything else, ideas? I mean, in terms of this particular item, or does anyone, what's people's views on the sort of signage element of, not on every tree, obviously, that I think that would be quite difficult, but on certain trees that are identified as having, perhaps are overlooked by a lot of people because they're just there, but kind of highlight the fact that these trees exist and what they provide to the community. I think it's a very interesting idea, and obviously the tree wardens have a lot of knowledge about what trees would be best to do this. I'm just wondering if it's something that they can maybe come back with more information about, and it's something that basically they need a bit of funding for signage, whether that's something we can look into that for them. Yeah, Councillor Martin.
Just check I'm not muted. Come on.
I can hear you.
That's all right. That's good. I'm just going to say with that, there are certain areas of the town where, for example, the area green space on Crescent Road by the traffic lights, where there are 3 or 4 trees, where perhaps with a small plan, that sort of information could all go on one board. And yes, we would have to be looking at what vandalism may take place and all that. So, but I think it's a very good idea. There are certain trees that may have been, and I'm sure our tree wardens may know more than us on that, that may have been planted in memoriam or in special circumstances, for special events, that where the original brass plaques or whatever have gone. It may be worth trying to find out if there are any of those around, and that could be added to it. So I think we can take this one forward.
Okay, I agree.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, based on the things that Councillor Martin has been saying about, we need to have, whatever signage we have has got to be minimal, nearly vandal proof, if at all possible, if we can achieve that. I was wondering whether we need to try and look into the cost of, and a lot of this signage I'd envisaged for trees or trails was like, I don't know, a 3 or 4 inch square post, not very high off the ground, cut at about a 45-degree angle, with simply a small plate on it. And then a QR code on it as well. The plate might just briefly give some, I don't know, the top 3 important things about the tree, and then the QR code could fill in the rest of it. But I thought maybe we just need to get our head around what would that look like, and then how much would they cost us if that's the route we decided to go down.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of thing they were talking about, is something, maybe even something you could put in the, up into the tree a bit without obviously damaging the tree, so that it's not easy to, perhaps less easy to reach by people. But I think it's the sort of thing to keep it sort of simple initially. It can always be added to, because there's like a lot of things. I mean, they again, as I said, they know some significant trees, and I think there's some in the church, in St Mary's Churchyard, they were talking about that perhaps the church might be willing to contribute to as well. So there's quite a lot of avenues. I think it does need more investigation, certainly, which which we can, maybe that's something to bring forward to the next meet and see what we can find a bit more information out. But I just wanted to sort of get the general gist, if we're in agreement it's a good or bad idea before it goes taken forward, basically. So is everyone happy for that to be taken forward, sort of having a look at okay, maybe I'll talk to town clerk and maybe sort of work out the best way of working it with the group, the Faversham Tree group. Okay. Is there anything else on that item? I know we're whizzing through the agenda, but that's always a good thing, I think. Yeah. Okay. Where are we? Number 8, big tree plants. To look into ideas to give trees to, I should say, to give trees to people to plant across town this winter. I was looking at some other town council for similar size to Faversham, and some of the ideas that they've done is that they've done a project where they actually, because similar to Faversham, they don't have the land to go and do big plants themselves. Some town councils do, luckily, and they can go and plant hundreds of trees on their own land. But what they did do was they actually provided trees for people to plant themselves. So they purchased an amount of trees at the right time of year, obviously, and did an event where they gave them out to people. People can people come up and they can take a tree or two and then they plant them, but as the process of planting it, they take photos, videos, etc. They lodge it. It's a bit of a map sort of situation going on, so we know where they've been planted. And I just thought it might be a really good way of trying to get more trees in the town without us having to there's also a risk, obviously, and I'm aware that we're coming up to the tree planting season and I don't want to miss too many years going by with us trying to contribute to trees. But I'm just trying to think of ways that we can get those trees out there and get people in sort of inspired to plant things without. And this could be a sort of a simpler or quicker way of doing it. And that was it, really. Well, no, that's not it, but obviously that's the premise of the idea. So, Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Is that something that we could potentially work with the Tree Council on or the forestry people to get some trees possibly for the council to give away? But also, it might, if we can get it done in time, it might be nice to have those at the Tree Week exhibition, just because we could work together with the Faversham Tree Group to be able to do the Faversham Town Council part of the giveaway of the trees, but also then to have people get some kind of education from the Faversham Tree Group as well.
Yeah, I think Tree Week would be great. I mean, assuming, I think most saplings like this, either whether it's Woodlands Trust or whether they come from a grower, then I think they try and aim it for that sort of time of the end of November. As Councillor Thomas was saying earlier about sort of fact sheets or planting instructions, kind of how to plant your tree or what to do with the tree, we can have that sort of thing alongside it, so people they're not going away blind with just this kind of sort of stick with roots on, and they don't know what to do with it. They've got some sort of something to know what to do, and we can, we've all seen it. It's a lot easier now to do this sort of, to do videos, and we can get we can do videos to talk about it while we're doing it and things like that. I just think it's sort of, I feel that going into November, December, the lead up to Christmas might be quite depressing for a lot of people, given this what we're going through this year. And I think it could be a really nice positive thing in saying, well, we've got COVID, but actually trees continue to grow, kind of thing, and it's quite nice. I mean, some organisations do provide free trees, but I do wonder whether, as we do have a budget for this committee, whether the other alternative is to provide some budget to this, because ultimately, I think an element of the budget was towards mitigation, or climate change mitigation, which this is, in my view. But that's my view. I'd like to hear what others think. If allocating some budget towards it would be something the committee would be happy to do, if that's the case. So Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, that's what we've got the budget for. Let us use that. Let's have a word with the tree group, see what they envisage, and let's use it in that way. Much as we said about the planting of wildlife areas and what have you around the town, if people want to need that little bit of extra support, then yes, we can do it. It may be that the tree group have already got contacts and are using the Woodland Trust or what have you to provide those already, but let's go down that route and see how they go.
Thank you. Councillor Perkins, did you want to come in? Sorry, okay. I took the liberty to do a bit of research before the meeting, just to kind of work out what, taking a rough figure of, because it's like plucking, what would you spend, what does it equate to in trees? Now, I had a look again. Obviously, this is sort of informally looking, not getting quotes or anything like that. But if, for example, £500, if you assume you're getting saplings which are on average say 50p, although some are less, it seems, that would equate to about 1,000 trees, obviously. Now, so but the question then, of course, is that the sort of size we're looking at? Saplings. I mean, that's what the Woodlands Trust do. Obviously, the bigger the tree, the more expensive it is, the more maintenance it requires. So there's questions. I know it's not a simple thing, but it was just to try and give an idea to say, this is the sort of thing that we could do. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, if we are talking about providing trees for people to plant, I think saplings is probably the best way to go, because a large majority of them won't survive, so we don't want to be giving out anything too large. However, I think giving people the opportunity to plant a sapling in their back garden could be a very good idea. So again, we just need to be careful what type of sapling we choose to make sure they don't end up with a ginormous tree in their back garden, but at least it'll be something for them to nurture and watch grow and hopefully get them more involved with the environment around them.
Yeah, I think I always think the smaller the tree, the better. I think given the summers we've had this year, saplings always seem to survive a lot better. The type of tree and the size is important, and in fact there's resources out there, because Plastic Free Faversham did thing last year about tree planting, and they did a stall, a couple of stalls actually, encouraging people to plant trees. It's like a tree pledge, and they did actually I helped them, but they did an information sheet, and it said, these trees will be good for a small garden roughly this size, these ones will be good for medium. So we could do something similar where we say, well, your garden's this size, these trees will be the best ones, and rather than just giving them an oak tree for a small town garden, they could have like a rowan, or and the information's there. Woodlands Trust, Tree Council, there's so much real good information. I don't think it would require a lot of resources to pull that together, because it's already there and we can kind of tailor it to what we do. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just as you were talking there, I thought suddenly occurred to me, maybe we could have some sort of pledge to look after a tree type thing, i.e. I'm going to plant this sapling and then I'm going to look after it. Particularly with children, that might be another way to encourage them to definitely look after the tree, because they promised someone that they're going to do it. That might be a way for them to get more buy-in from the young people. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. I think that's lovely. Yeah, Madam Mayor, would you like to speak?
Just talking about the children, I'm wondering if there will be some schools that would like a tree that obviously COVID-19, if it were planted now and it had a plaque to say it was planted during the year of COVID-19, and maybe it would involve the school. The children could learn about all the different trees and then choose a tree, have a school vote on which tree they'd like to plant, having learnt about the different trees that could be planted, be a way of them getting knowledge of the trees, and they would actually have the opportunity to plant the most popular tree that was voted for. I don't know, it's just something to engage the young children and schools, possible. I don't suppose they could all have space to plant a tree, but most schools probably could find one space, and they could make it more of a school project really, and plant the one popular tree that's eventually decided upon, and put a plaque in it that says this was planted 2020 during COVID. And in 100 years time they'll be looking at that tree thinking, oh my goodness, what was COVID? Well, they won't, but the next generation will. So no, just an idea maybe to involve the young people.
Like a time capsule almost.
Sorry?
Like a time capsule.
Yes, almost, but a tree with a plaque in that says this was planted, and the information about the tree. I don't know whether the schools, you know, would do it as a short project, really, just a little project to engage the children.
No, thank you. Yeah. Councillor Martin, would you wanted to come? I saw you want your arm waving around, or was it just?
I think there is.
I was just thinking along those lines. Yeah, I mean, we keep suggesting things for schools. I'm sure a lot of schools have them, and I know that, for example, at the Abbey School, there's a large planted area to the southern boundary, which was planted as part of the various Queen's Jubilee celebrations and the Queen Mother's secession as warden of the sink ports and all sorts of things, and those sort of things. I think they could be accommodated. I think you're better off going for the single ones in primary than secondary.
Yes,
but it's worth going for.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, actually, talking of schools, as well as the trees for the Abbey School, the Woodlands Trust trees that were meant to be planted earlier in the year, so sort of something we were supporting as this committee, if you may remember. Obviously, they still weren't planted because of the lockdown. The school still want them to plant. I'm trying to persuade them, although it's difficult, and I'm conscious of the sensitivity at the moment, because schools, it's not exactly easy for the schools. That it would be good to do it this side of winter. Maybe again try and coincide it with Tree Week would be good. But they're to be planted as well, so that's obviously good. I was going to.
Could I just say a word? Just a reminder, really, that we still need to replace the trees on the front Brents, the town green there, that died after the bund. They were planted after the bund, but they haven't survived.
Yes. So
we've got some space there for more.
Okay, thank you. That will be good. I mean, in fact, that will be a nice thing to do if we can, again during that sort of time of year, because and we can involve maybe some residents from around there. I think is that Priory Ward, I think.
Yes.
Yes, it is, and I believe that there's a proposal from a group for a memorial tree for somebody in that area, so we could possibly approach them about that in due course.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
Do we need to be careful about the type of tree we choose there? Because am I right in remembering that they died because the creek floods and they weren't the sort of tree that could cope with that? I'm trying to understand what the issue was there.
Yes, that's what I'm inclined to believe, that yes, they weren't the right type of tree for that area.
Thank you.
I can't remember if I did. I remember having a conversation with Louise and Adam, or both, or individually. I can't remember, back a while ago, and I think I did research into some trees. I to try and look at ones that may be more suitable. And I've obviously got it somewhere. I think it was something I presented at the time, and obviously again it's sort of it didn't happen in the spring, so obviously now we'll look into the winter. I find that because that, yeah, I think it was to do with the salty water, because I think not salty water, it wasn't that, it was more the exposure, yeah, and the wetness, and yeah, Councillor Thomas.
In that case, can I propose that the replacing of those trees will be very useful to help us promote, i.e. National Tree Week that's coming up, and the other tree points we've had on our agenda this evening, and it gives a bit of a launch pad to these other tree activities we've just been talking about. So I wonder how straightforward or not it would be to have the old trees removed and for other trees to be planted. I mean, I don't know how big they are, but removing the trees that have died might be awkward if they're big, but it'd be nice to have some sort of, even if it's a tree planting ceremony, but a recorded one, i.e. there won't be only one or two people there, but we record the event of the trees being planted. Thank you, Chair.
That's great, and actually that might be it might be a lovely way to actually demonstrate best practices to plant a tree, or maybe do two separate things. So, you know, one around, like you say, a ceremonial thing, but maybe also just to show the process of planting a tree, maybe, or I don't know. But yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I think that it'd be really great to do something to kickstart the season. Louise, what's the process in terms of because obviously we'd need to get quotes for the trees. What's the best process to do? Is it just a case of getting some quotes from some suppliers?
Yes, well, obviously make sure we get the best tree for the situation, and then yes, get a couple of prices. I can't imagine it's going to be too expensive, is it?
No.
And there's money in the budget, so I don't see any problem with this committee agreeing it. If Councillor Thomas is happy with that, it's either public spaces or here.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Louise. Councillor Martin, was you going to speak?
I was going to propose on the back of that, and I was going to let Councillor Thomas go first, but on the back of that, I propose we actually do that and start the ball rolling by planting down on that part of the council's land, and see where we go from there. And hopefully we can do both the jobs that you suggested, Councillor.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, building on that, I can't remember the size of the dead trees. I don't know if Louise can help with that. Do we need to get a quote in to have them removed, or are they small enough for a more local person to remove the trees?
I think they'd be quite easy to remove. They weren't very big when they were planted, and they didn't grow. I'm not certain if they're actually still there, so I can check with Adam, but definitely I don't see any issue with moving them. That'd be very easy to do that.
Oh, lovely, thank you. In that case, Chair, I agree with Councillor Martin, and ideally, please identify the right type of tree for there. And I propose we go ahead at the earliest opportunity, because if we can get them planted, I keep flicking back at our agenda. The National Tree Week is the end of November, beginning of December, but it could be linked in with any of the tree events that we've been talking about this evening. And I'll leave the timing to you, Chair, to decide.
Possibly, depending on what the trees are and how they're supplied, it might be possible to do it even, say, in October, late October or something, as a kind of and then go into November into the build up to Tree Week. I mean, subject to what the trees are and how they're going to be supplied, and etc. So, Madam Mayor, would you look? Sorry, you had your hand up, I think. Would you like to speak, or?
No, just thinking on about something for the schools, obviously for that week, something fairly simple. Would they know it was National Tree Week? Possibly not. Maybe you choose 4 trees and offer them to teach the children about those 4 trees, giving them the information, and see whether they'd like to choose one to plant, and we will provide the tree with a COVID-19 plaque at the bottom of it saying it was planted that year. I think we could keep a simple, fairly straightforward offer to the schools, really. And obviously they would learn from that, but I think if you restricted it to the choice of maybe 4 trees that you could recommend would be good to be planted, and then let the children as a school decide which one, and the most votes that will be the tree that will get planted. Something to engage the children, really, but keep it simple.
Sure.
That way. Yeah.
So are you proposing that, Madam Mayor?
I'd like to propose that happens. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So I just make sure I'm keeping track. So we had a proposal from Councillor Martin to get the trees organised, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Which, did you second that, Councillor Thomas? Was that a second? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm all happy with to go ahead with that. Yeah. Brilliant. So, Madam Mayor, your proposal was to. So, could you just repeat the proposal? So, I heard what you said, but I just wanted to make sure I understand it fully.
You know, engage Brooke on this as well. But for you with the expertise, to maybe choose 4 trees that would be sensible to plant at this time, and then we notify the school, give them all the information about the trees so that they could then pass that on to the children, teach the children. They may even draw the tree, I don't know, and then let them vote on which tree their school decides to have and plant, and maybe they can put the plaque in that says it was, you know, COVID-19 year that it was planted as it grows. It's just an idea, and maybe Brooke could be involved with helping with that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
I don't know, I was just going to speak on building on Madam Mayor's proposal there, as whether this committee should finance the purchase of saplings for the schools, and then a bit like Madam Mayor's been doing around the town with the businesses, whether or not some sort of certificate of planting in this year, again, probably signed by the Mayor and yourself, Chris, as chair of the Climate and Biodiversity Committee, and maybe tie it in as well as to some sort of pledges to looking after the tree. So whether it's a class or something that is planting the tree and they're pledging to look after it, something along those sorts of lines. Thank you.
Yes,
that sounds really lovely. So as a proposal, would Councillor Thomas, is that a second? Are you seconding that? Is that sort of as well?
I'm seconding the Mayor's proposal with the extra bits that I added.
Okay, brilliant. Is it Councillor Martin?
That's all right. I was going to say that seems a very fair amendment, and I can't do anything but support that idea. Thank you.
Brilliant. I think everyone's in agreement with that. I think that's a really good thing to move forward. We can contact the schools. Brilliant. I would, on this subject as well, I think I'd like to propose that we we go ahead to get sort of costs or look at getting the trees to do this big tree plant sort of initiative. Now there is, funny enough, I put the big tree plant on as a name, and there is actually a national, well, there was a government initiative called the Big Tree Plant. I don't know if it happens every year, to be honest, but it doesn't matter. I think it's kind of, we can call it the Faversham Big Tree Plant or something, maybe. But I just think it's given the timing, I think it's something that will be good for us to agree, assuming we do, to go forward with this. So yeah, I'd like to propose that we go ahead and look at the supply. So I don't know whether we look at the Woodlands Trust first, but I'm sort of, I think realistically it will be better for us to allocate some funds to do it, because I think it will be better. And actually, and personally, I think if we were to allocate, I mean, we can look at the funds, but allocate around £500. With the view, if it's a success, we could look at another meeting to perhaps repeat it later, in the spring, and do another round of it maybe. I'm conscious we don't want to kind of go too mad, but it's a figure, but I'm quite happy if anyone feels like it could be less or more, but that's just an idea. Yeah, Councillor Martin.
I think if we're going to do something like that, let's find out what the tree group take up was like last year. Let's ask them. I would say up to £500 to support this is a reasonable figure. And then let's go from there. It's not being excessive, but I think it's just we need to find out. If they said they only got rid of 20 last year, then we don't spend £500 on it. But I think we should say up to £500, and we would take advice from the Faversham Tree Group, and if necessary in other groups that you know of, Councillor Williams or Councillor Thomas, and perhaps if you two would liaise on that, that would probably be a way forward. Does that sound fair?
I think so, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
This may well be exactly what you're proposing, Chris, or Chair, in the sense that, as Councillor Martin was saying, am I right in estimating that £500 would get us about 200 saplings?
Well, it could get us up to about 1,000.
Right.
Which I know seems a lot.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say whether we continue with the idea of creating a lot of motivation for families to plant the trees by again going back to getting the children involved. The Madam Mayor's talked about the trees, the schools, whether we should do something along the lines of inviting people through, I don't know, the town council's Facebook page to sign up to plant a tree, and then on a specific day, the parent or parents or guardians or have you come down with the young person who's going to plant the tree, and again they sign a pledge to look after the tree. And maybe we can tie in this pledge to things that David Attenborough has been doing about saving the planet and planting trees to mitigate against the climate change. The details of that I'm not too sure, but I just thought it would be nice for them to come down, sign up to it, and collect the tree. Again, it gives the family more of an impetus to commit to it, and makes it more of an event. Thank you.
Yeah, very personal. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of doing it. I think you said it a lot better than I did, Councillor Thomas. I think I was bumbling, but I think that's a better way of doing it. Yeah, I think the trees need to obviously be sourced prior, obviously, but to have some sort of process where it's interactive and children get involved would be great. I mean, maybe as well, it'd be a great way for us to say, okay, well, X amount of trees have gone out and planted. This is potentially going to suck up X amount of CO2 over the next 10 years, or we can show figures of how it has mitigated against climate change, because I think otherwise it sort of people can't necessarily sort of pick up the link. Okay, so I mean that sounds really good. Is everyone happy to go forward with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, you know, we can converse over other means in the meantime if anyone's got any ideas. But I think if you know, putting that forward, and then hopefully tying with Faversham Trees for the tree week. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay. Next item is future events. There was no specific reason to put this on here, just apart from the fact that we often talk about events, and I thought it'd be worth talking about it. But if again, it's obviously a difficult time, but yeah, it's just open it to ideas. Who's Councillor Thomas? Was you first, I think?
I was just going to say we've just come up with an event. Hopefully, this tree thing. So that's what one to put in the diary for some point this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's kind of a good one already. Councillor Perkin.
I think Councillor Martin was first.
Sorry, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I think we've got a significant set of events there around the tree week and what have you. There's obviously the neighbourhood plan consultation, 20's plenty consultation. There's a lot of other things which are all helping with the climate and biodiversity emergency, we hope, and which we hope we'll be able to mitigate even further. And given the latest set of rules, I think we should consider any further events in line with how those transpire, because the rule of 6, it appears, has got quite a few exceptions. If you wish to go pheasant shooting, you can do it in more than 6 and things, and all sorts of strange things, and you can play soccer and rugby, but and things. So I think it behoves us to. I believe the full guidance only came out very late last night, and I think it behoves us to give time for our officers to guide us once I've actually had a chance to read that, as to what other events we may consider or what style of events we may consider, because I think that is the key. It's not so much what we can do, it's more what style of event can we deliver, because we know we can deliver in there a round walk through exhibition, but whether we can do a lecture or whatever, who knows. We'd have to look into that, and I would rather take that guidance once everyone's had a chance to read it.
Thank you. Councillor Perkin.
So on the 8th of October, it's Clean Air Day, and obviously I don't think we can really do anything mega about that, but I have sent over some documents. I think I sent them to yourself and to Eddie, and I will circulate them to, and Louise, I'll circulate them to the rest of the group as well, around engagement with schools on anti-idling. And it's something that I've been meaning to kind of do for a long time, which I'm hoping that maybe I'm happy to lead on it. If others want to help, I'd really appreciate it. But I thought maybe to speak to Brooke and see if we can draw up our own anti-idling campaign based on the kind of campaigns that I've shared already from other places, and just cater them to Faversham itself, and then potentially approach the schools around that for Clean Air Day, just as an information pack. So there's quite a lot of information in both of the campaigns that I've kind of illustrated. I'm sorry that I didn't send them to the whole group, it's my fault. but they essentially are local authority campaigns. I think one's in Ireland and a couple of other ones are in the UK and other council areas, where they've sent out quite easy to understand, digestible information around idling and how it saves money and it saves the environment and it saves air pollution around schools, especially as we go into the winter months where people tend to leave their engines on to heat the cars. It's also got little pledges, so you can fill in a pledge to say you're going to talk to your carer about it, and it's small and it's manageable, and I didn't want to put too much pressure on the schools because obviously they've got a lot on anyway. So but I think it would be nice just to start reaching out on Clean Air Day to see whether we can work together in the future to look at various different projects we can do around idling around the schools. I think that's a reasonable day to kick that bit of action off as the council.
Lovely, thank you. I think yes, definitely. I think that's a really good idea. I think just also touching on what others have said about we've talked about some significant things which are good to focus on, and there are other areas of focus and other events mentioned. So I think anything sort of virtual campaign type led would kind of be easier to do around these sort of more physical things. Interesting, talking about the neighbourhood plan sort of engagement. I know that Councillor Irwin was going to talk to myself or this committee about engaging with the environmental groups of the town, in regards to the neighbourhood plan, which I think, again, as has been mentioned, it's obviously a good way of linking in climate and biodiversity into all aspects of what town council are doing. And interesting, on the stall on Saturday, 20's Plenty stall, I think a couple of people I was talking to about idling. As part of this, they were saying, they really support the 20's Plenty, 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, but they also have concerns of idling. So I think, again, it's a really good way of linking into the whole sort of priorities of what we're trying to do. And I'm happy to obviously assist in that and in the idling thing as much as I can. Councillor Thomas.
I'm going to ask my fellow councillors here for some support on another mega project that I managed to get myself involved with 20's Plenty and behaviour change. It's come from Kent County Council, and they want to try and instigate a behaviour change, i.e. with travel, to try and get more people walking and cycling to school. I don't know if anyone's heard of Active Mob. Does that ring a bell with anyone? What I'll do though, we'll forward over the email that I've been sent from Kent about it. I volunteered to contact the schools, which I'm still happy to do, but I'd probably appreciate some help from members of this committee as well. So I'll send it around, and then maybe you can get back to me on how you think we might tackle this. What the plan was for the council, Faversham Town Council, to initially contact the schools and say this company called Active Mob, who organise Let's Talk Travel, will be contacting the school, and that we would encourage the school to join if at all possible. It may link in with Councillor Perkins' anti-idling plans as well, because it's basically trying to stop parents driving.
Okay, thank you. That sounds good as well. Councillor Perkins.
Yeah, I was really going to kind of echo what you just said, Councillor Thomas. I think that if we approach the schools 8,000 times, it's not going to be particularly helpful. So if it might be something that we work together on that in that case, just to make sure that we've got, maybe instead of it just being about idling, it could just be around behavioural change in general, and idling can be part of that as well. So it could just be a slightly bigger project, but if we could tie it in with Clean Air Day, that would be brilliant, because obviously that applies there as well. And then, yeah, I think just send them quite a nice comprehensive information pack with all of that relevant information in would be quite helpful.
Brilliant. Yeah, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. From the point of view of certainly from the reaction I'm getting from secondary school head teachers, both locally and around the area, they are rather inundated at the moment with parental concerns, is the way I'm going to put it, because there are parents who are concerned that their children are being forced to wear masks, and there are parents who are concerned that their children are not being allowed to wear masks. And you know, take your pick. And I am going to be very honest and say, when you're approaching schools, if we're going to approach schools for the tree planting and the anti-idling and the active mob, then please can we make sure we do it all in just one? Because I know that head teachers are very much, and their senior leadership teams are much under pressure at the moment. If we can arrange for that to all happen quickly, so be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, I totally accept what you've just said, Councillor Martin. Sometimes I feel like if we put everything in together, because I can understand where Councillor Thomas's proposal around active mob, are they called, and the air quality one, that's quite a similar brief, isn't it? Whereas the trees are slightly different, and it's got a more kind of COVID related purpose, and also we don't need to do that anytime soon, so that could be kind of delayed a little bit further into November. To tie it in with Tree Week. I just think that they're two quite separate projects, whereas Councillor Thomas's project and the anti-idling project can quite easily be put together, whereas the tree one I think is slightly different. So I don't know whether we can put those two together and then potentially have the tree one at another time.
All I would suggest then is that we mention we'll be contacting them with an offer of free trees and a proposal in that first communication, because as I say, I am very conscious of the and if the secondary schools are getting it, I'm pretty certain the primary schools are swallowed by it and swamped with it, and I'm not of I'm just concerned that we don't get lost in the mire. And I think if they start seeing too much coming from the town council, what will happen is it'll end up in there. Oh, I'll look at that at some point, spam drawer, and it won't ever get looked at. So that's why I suggest we just mention we'll be contacting you about that in the future, because if it's something for free, they'll love it.
I just had a thought. I tend to agree with the what's been mentioned about the keeping the two sort of air quality transport things together, and then the mention of the tree, because obviously then it leads on to the kind of what we're doing about the trees. But I wonder whether the invitation to have the free tree could come from the mayor.
Yes.
Quite nice. And then it's almost like a sort of a gift, not a gift, but you know, saying it's a process, but it's kind of a difference between maybe a committee sort of town council thing and then more of a civic thing, which might be quite nice as a sort of word it in a way. But then that could be the following letter. That's just a suggestion. I think might be quite nice. I think that, well, in my opinion, I think a sort of that in that format, they would probably sort of hopefully engage with that quite nicely. Yeah, that's just my idea anyway.
Yes.
But yeah, so Councillor Martin, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just as something that's come through in the last week that I believe all parish councillors were copied in on. May I suggest that when we do that, we also notify the borough council, environment cabinet member and deputy cabinet member, so that they're aware of our actions, because I know one of their published aims is to support Swale in Bloom, working with schools, community groups, voluntary groups and town and parish councils to enhance local habitats and wildlife corridors, improving biodiversity conditions across Swale. And that's the very last point on part of their action plan. So I think we should look to engage with them and ensure that they're informed as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, I think that makes sense. We've got to do joined up working, otherwise this is hopefully again sort of part of the meeting between us, the town council, represent to Cabinet for the Environment. I think that would be, it's going to be really useful. I mean, obviously we can't go over everything because the meeting could go on for hours, but the key points of things that we're trying to achieve. I noticed, I don't know what the best thing, I noticed that I think it was the letter, I don't know if it's the letter you was referring to, Councillor Thomas, the one that was amongst the paperwork for today's meeting. I'm not sure, Louise, when we need to sort of bring that up in this meeting.
Yeah, I think now would be a good time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think everyone might have seen that letter from Councillor Valentine about whether basically parish councillors would be interested in having presentation on the Borough's climate and ecological emergency, and I guess just to kind of understand a bit more about what they're doing. I know obviously some of the members of this committee and obviously of the council in general probably know a bit more than I do even, but I just think it's something that might be quite useful to do, just again, so we're working on the same lines. What do others think about that? Yeah, so Councillor Thomas.
I suggest it might be good to have it as a separate meeting, i.e. if the town clerk could arrange this meeting or presentation from Councillor Valentine virtually, and then members of the town council can attend should they wish. Because of the depth of it, I feel it just needs to be a separate meeting or not part of another meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Councillor Perkin.
I was just going to wonder whether we could open that to the public, because I think it would be really interesting for them to hear about it from Councillor Valentine. I guess we'd have to ask him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with that as a question to ask. I mean, if we could go back and say, I agree. I think if it's a separate meeting for that all councillors to join on to, yeah, I mean, there's no reason why we can't ask about it with members of the public. That might be quite nice to do, actually.
Can I make a?
Yes, of course.
The fact that it's open, that they come along to a parish council, or in our case town council meeting, they are open to the public anyway, so I don't see any issue there with members of the public attending.
Sure, I was just wondering whether we could actually make a thing of it, because it would be quite nice to have a virtual meeting where the public could come and listen to and speak about it. It'd be quite interesting, like as an event.
Is it sorry, Louise?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I'll write back to them and ask them what they can do. Obviously, Councillor Williams is also meeting with Councillor Valentine on Monday, anyway, so that might be something we want to discuss there as well. But I can write in response to that letter.
Thanks, Louise.
Thank you. Okay, well, I think that leads on to any other business, I think. Is there any other business? No, I haven't got any other business as such. I just wanted to pose a couple of questions to the committee, to all of you. Firstly, is everyone happy with how the structure of this committee is working, in the sense of I recognise that I tend to stick a load of stuff on the agenda based on stuff that I'm, it's been brought up. I try if possible to reach out to ask if there's anything to go on the agenda, but is everyone happy how it's working at the moment, or is there anything you'd like to change it? Councillor Thomas. Yeah,
quite happy with what I would call a nice fluid agenda that's adapted to suit whatever we need to talk about at the time.
Good. That's good news. Thank you. And the only other thing is when we were obviously having meetings physically in the Guildhall, in the beginning we used to have public questions, which I think, admittedly, I know it can make the meeting very long, and I admit it's my job to kind of make sure it doesn't. But I'm wondering whether for the next meeting, whether we open up for written questions. Put it out there and sort of ask if anyone wants to ask anything specific, either based on the agenda or raise something. It's an idea. Yeah, Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I definitely agree there, Chair, that sending in written questions to be answered is always a very good idea. And maybe as some of them could be more of advice questions, not into detail, but basic advice with tree planting, for instance, like people could have asked questions about trees. And if we've got them in advance, we might be able to do some research and give them advice on the at this committee meeting. Yeah, I kind of miss, well, we all miss in some respects the kind of interaction, but we used to get quite a nice sort of interaction with people. And as you say, Councillor Thomas, I think it'd be quite nice. I mean, we would get the questions in advance, but also it would enable us through this means to actually be able to write back if it's a more detailed response, we can actually write back. So in some ways it can keep it a bit, I'll make it a bit better. Yeah, Councillor Thomas. Sorry, every time you get speaking, Chris, another idea flies into.
That's all right.
I suddenly thought, well, going back to the agenda, which is great for this evening, maybe we should be inviting some of these people along, i.e. the Faversham Trees, or I don't know, maybe this a topic on the agenda where having someone who knows particularly about it might want to attend the committee as well, and that might help us be able to tailor our help even better to support them. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we can certainly. I think something we've always said that we'd always look at. I think right at the beginning we said we can always bring someone on to speak, or if it's relevant. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Louise, is that okay? Is that okay for the next meeting to announce that, to make that?
Yeah, and I'll make sure it's well publicised a couple of weeks or so before.
Lovely, thank you. Well, unless there's anything else, I think that's probably the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really good meeting. I needed cheering up.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor.
So it was good. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.